$10,000 saved. Flights to Hawaii are pulled up on one browser tab, hotel options in another. Your finger is hovering over the Book Now button, and you cannot bring yourself to actually click it. Because what if you spent all that money and your 4-year-old doesn't even remember it? What if your 7-year-old is miserable the whole time? What if you get there and realize you should have just gone to the Caribbean? I've had this exact conversation during probably 50 consultations at this point, and I'm going to tell you what I tell them. Sometimes Hawaii with kids is absolutely worth it, and sometimes it's really not. And the difference comes down to 3 things, none of which are what most people expect. Quick tip before we get started, if you've already built your Hawaii itinerary but want to make sure it actually works for kids, I now offer itinerary reviews for just $50. Send me your plans and I'll review them and send back suggestions within 2 business days. Okay, we need to talk about money because that's what actually is keeping you up at night, right? A week-long Hawaii trip for a family of 4 is going to run you somewhere between $7,000 and $12,000, sometimes more depending on where you're flying from and what kind of trip you want. I know, that's a lot. We could replace our HVAC system money. That's 3 months of daycare money. Flights for 4 people are going to be anywhere from $2,000 to $3,500 depending on where you live. West Coast families have it easier. You might find round-trip tickets for under $300 per person. East Coast, you're looking at $600 to $950 per person minimum. Hotels run about $200 to $400 per night before taxes. And the taxes in Hawaii are brutal. You're paying close to 19% on top of your room rate once you factor in all the county taxes and fees. And that number just got a little more official at the start of 2026 when Hawaii added a new green fee. So that $300 a night hotel, you're actually paying closer to $360. Car rental for a week is going to be $400 to $700, depending on what island and what kind of car you need. I always recommend Discount Hawaii Car Rental because they consistently have the best rates and free cancellation. You can find that link over on my Hawaii Resources tab on hawaiitravelwithkids.com, along with my other trusted resources. Food for the week is easily $1,200 to $2,000 if you're doing a mix of grocery store meals and eating out. A casual lunch for 4 people runs $90 to $120. Sit-down dinner, you're looking at $160 to $220, and that's not going anywhere fancy. Activities add up fast too. Snorkel boat tours run $100 to $200 per adult. Luau's now run anywhere from $150 to over $230 per person, depending on which one you choose. I did a whole episode on Oahu luau rankings, so check that out if you're trying to figure out which ones are actually worth it. But beaches are free. A lot of the most epic hikes are free. Watching sunset costs nothing. Now compare that to a Mexico all-inclusive for a family of 4. You're looking at $5,000 to $8,000 total. Flights, hotel, every meal, all the drinks, kids clubs, entertainment, everything. You check in and never pull your wallet out again. Or Puerto Rico. You can do a full week for around $4,000 to $5,000 total. No passport needed. Beautiful beaches, rainforest, fascinating history, and great food. So when people ask me, is Hawaii worth the money? I honestly can't answer that. Only you can, because only you know what $10,000 means to your family right now. I had a consultation last month with a family who had 3 school-age kids obsessed with wildlife and volcanoes. They wanted to hike, see lava tubes, swim in waterfalls, maybe spot some dolphins. They had 10 days and a solid budget. I told them to book the Big Island immediately. And then immediately second-guess myself for about 3 days, wondering, what if they get there and it's not what they imagined? What if I just confidently sent a family across the Pacific and it falls flat? One of the parents emailed me after and said it was the best family trip they'd ever taken. And it makes sense because what they wanted, that specific mix of adventure, nature, and cultural learning, Hawaii does better than anywhere in the world. We built this itinerary with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, black sand beaches, waterfall hikes, a manta ray night snorkel, and Hawaiian cultural experiences. It was the right call. But I don't think I'll ever fully stop second-guessing myself that moment after I tell someone to go somewhere. Hawaii only makes sense when you have at least a full week, though. This is one of the most common questions I get. How long should we stay? And my answer is always the same. Not 4 days, not a long weekend, an actual full week minimum. The jet lag alone takes 2 to 3 days to shake, especially with kids. I talk about this in episode 40 about surviving the flight to Hawaii. I don't care how much you want to make a quick trip work, it won't. You'll spend half your vacation recovering and the other half dreading the flight home. Hawaii also makes sense when you want your kids to experience something genuinely different from your everyday life. Learning a few hula moves, hearing the Hawaiian language, understanding why we don't walk on ancient sacred sites, spotting a sea turtle, and learning why they're protected. This cultural piece is huge for me personally. As a professional hula dancer who's been visiting Hawaii for over 30 years, I can tell you, Hawaii offers something Mexico and the Caribbean can't replace. That cultural immersion is real and it matters. I've taken my own kids to Hawaii countless times since they were babies, and watching them learn about Hawaiian culture, seeing them be respectful at sacred sites, that stuff sticks with them. Hawaii makes sense when your idea of vacation involves both adventure and beach time. Morning waterfall hike, afternoon building sandcastles, snorkeling in crystal clear water, then relaxing at sunset. If that sounds perfect to you, Hawaii delivers. And it makes sense when you can afford it without stress. If that $10,000 represents your emergency fund or money you actually need for something else, Hawaii can wait. I had a consultation with a mom who wanted the classic poolside vacation, unlimited cocktails, never leaving the resort, everything included, zero stress. She wanted to sit by a beautiful pool with a drink in her hand and not think about a single thing. When I showed her Hawaii resort prices, her jaw dropped. Then I explained that Hawaii doesn't have true all-inclusive resorts. Every meal costs extra. Every drink costs extra. That $400 a night hotel she was looking at, that's just the room. Meals for her family of 4 would add another $150 to $200 per day on top of that. We did the math together, and I suggested Mexico instead. And I remember getting off that call thinking, did I just talk somebody out of Hawaii? Am I even allowed to do that? But she emailed me 3 weeks later with photos from Riviera Maya, and she looked genuinely happy. That was the right call, because Hawaii wasn't going to give her what she actually wanted. I tell families to skip Hawaii when they are thinking 3 or 4 days. I recently talked to a couple from the East Coast who wanted a quick beach getaway. The flights alone were over 10 hours each way. By the time they checked in, adjusted to the time change, and started to relax, they'd be packing to leave. That's not a vacation. That's an expensive exercise and jet lag. I also tell families to skip Hawaii when budget is tight. If you're trying to make Hawaii work on $5,000 total, you're going to stress the entire time. You'll skip activities because they cost too much. You'll eat grocery store sandwiches for every meal. You'll constantly be calculating and worrying. That's not a vacation either. Puerto Rico or Mexico will give you an actual relaxing trip for that budget. Save Hawaii for when you can do it without the financial stress hanging over everything. And I tell families to really think it through when their main concern is the kids won't remember it anyway. Because if that's sitting in the back of your mind the whole time, you're probably not ready. You're going to spend $10,000 and resent them for not appreciating it enough. There's an episode, number 27, all about whether Hawaii is still worth visiting given all the changes in tourism there right now. That might help you if you're still on the fence. Okay, can we talk about the question nobody actually wants to ask out loud? What if we waste the money? That's the real anxiety underneath all of this. You've been planning this trip in your head for months. You've saved the money. You're so close to pulling the trigger. But that voice keeps whispering, what if it's not worth it? What if we get there and the kids are miserable and we've just blown $10,000? I can't promise you won't have rough moments. There was a full day on a Maui trip a few years back where my kid just refused to leave the condo, completely refused. I had snorkeling planned, a waterfall hike. I had built this whole day, and he spent it watching YouTube in the air conditioning. I was so frustrated. I kept thinking about what the trip cost, how short it was, how we were wasting it. And then the next morning, he woke up and immediately asked if he could go see the fish. We had the best snorkeling day of the entire trip, and he talked about it for months afterwards. That's just family travel. It's not Instagram every day. But if you go to Hawaii with realistic expectations, it's pretty hard to have a genuinely bad time overall. The problem is that when people expect Hawaii to be something it's not. They expect all-inclusive ease when Hawaii requires planning and decision-making every single day. They expect perfect 70-degree weather when Hawaii can be hot, humid, and rainy. They expect Pinterest-perfect moments on a loop when real family travel involves meltdowns in parking lots and sunburned shoulders and spending $8 on mediocre shave ice. During my consultations, a big chunk of what I do is just help families set realistic expectations. Episode 75 is all about planning Hawaii trips without the overwhelm, and a lot of that is just getting clear on what Hawaii actually feels like day to day, not just what Instagram photos show. People ask me all the time, are my kids the right age for Hawaii? My honest answer is I've done this at every age, and it's never looked exactly like I expected. I took my kid to Hawaii when he was really little, around 18 months, and I had this whole plan. Beach in the morning, nap, afternoon activity. What actually happened was that he was so wrecked from the time change that he woke up at 4 a.m. every day and was wiped by 6 p.m. We spent one entire afternoon in the hotel room watching Daniel Tiger because that was the only thing keeping the peace. I have a photo from that trip of me sitting on the lanai with a Mai Tai while he was conked out at 5 p.m., and I looked completely defeated. That trip was hard. But I also have a video from that same trip of him seeing the ocean for the first time. He just stopped, completely frozen, and then this huge grin. I watched that video probably 100 times. So every age works. Every age is also hard in its own specific way. What I've found is that around 4 or 5, something shifts. They can actually hike. They can snorkel. They want to know why we can't touch the sea turtles. When my kids got to that range, it was genuinely fun in a different way. Less survival mode, more actually doing things together and seeing them understand what's happening around them. But I also know families who did Hawaii with a newborn and said it was the most relaxing trip they'd ever taken because the baby just slept on the beach. And families who waited until their kids were teenagers and had these completely magical trips where they could hike all day and stay out late and eat real food. The right age question is really a question about your own tolerance for chaos. If you can roll with a toddler meltdown in a Costco parking lot on Maui and just laugh about it, you can do Hawaii with young kids. If that sounds like your nightmare, wait a couple years. I have guides specifically for traveling to Hawaii with babies and toddlers. Both are on my blog, hawaiitravelwithkids.com, if you want actual logistics of how to make those ages work. Now, I want to tell you about a consultation that really stuck with me. This mom had been saving for a Hawaii trip for 3 years, 2 kids under 5. She'd done all the research. She knew exactly which hotels she wanted, which beaches, which restaurants. But during our call, something fell off. She kept mentioning how tight the budget was, how worried she was about the cost, how she'd been comparing prices obsessively for weeks. So I asked her this: if you spent that $8,000 on something else, what would you do with it? She got really quiet and then she said, honestly, we'd probably fix up our backyard. We'd been wanting to build a play structure and get some nice outdoor furniture so the kids could actually use the space. They'd play out there every single day. So I told her to skip Hawaii and do the backyard. I couldn't tell if she was relieved or disappointed, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd helped her or if she was going to find a different consultant. But she said thank you, and she meant it. That backyard renovation was going to bring her family more joy than a stressful, budget-conscious Hawaii trip where she spent the whole time watching her bank account. Maybe they'll do Hawaii in a few years when the budget is in a better place, or maybe they won't, and that's okay too. Sometimes the right answer is not right now, and there's some real wisdom in recognizing when the timing is off rather than forcing it and ending up stressed and broke and counting down the days until you go home. Now, if you've decided Hawaii is right for your family, there are some real ways to make the budget more manageable. You can get a condo with a kitchen and cook breakfast every morning. One grocery store run saves you a couple $100s in breakfast costs alone. Stock up on yogurt, fruit, bagels, coffee, make sandwiches for beach days. It adds up fast. Focus on free activities. Beaches are free. Many of Hawaii's most beautiful hikes are free. Watching sunset costs nothing. You genuinely don't need to book an expensive tour every single day. Some of my favorite Hawaii memories involve completely free activities. And sometimes you just need to talk through it all with someone who knows the islands well. That's exactly what my consultations are for. We'll figure out what's realistic for your family without the overwhelm. Sometimes that means Hawaii. Sometimes that means somewhere else. I'm here to help you make the right call, not just sell you a Hawaii trip. If you want to start planning on your own, I have free email courses that walk you through the whole process. There's one called How to Travel to Hawaii Like a Pro that covers the big picture, and then island-specific courses for Maui, Oahu, Kauai, and the Big Island. I also have comprehensive travel guides for each island that break down exactly where to stay, what to do, and how to avoid the mistakes most families make. Everything, the email courses, island guides, car rental links, all of that is at the Hawaii Resources tab on hawaiitravelwithkids.com. Hawaii with kids can be absolutely magical. Watching your daughter's face when she learns her first hula move, your son spotting his first sea turtle, that moment when the evening breeze hits and everything feels perfect. But so is taking a trip you can actually afford without stress. Building that backyard play structure, waiting 2 more years until the timing is right, and doing Hawaii the way you actually want to do it. There's no wrong answer here. There's just your family and what makes sense for you right now. Not anyone else. For you. Aloha.